Greetings, fellow humans, and although this is a Tea with JD, it's actually the Traveling Reads book tag, something that I decided to do. I've seen various book tags, and I said, why not give it a shot to do one and see what happens? So, this is me giving it a shot with, sponsored by Numi Rooibos Tea, which is actually very nice. So, out of the get go, if you were on a road trip with as many authors as you wanted to, who would you want to be? For me, I would love to be on a road trip on a bus with J.K. Rowling, Neil Gaiman, Terry Pratchett, and Douglas Adams. Just because I think the collective laughter that could occur in that road trip would be the stuff of legend. These are some of the brightest authors that I'm a huge fan of, and I just think the dynamic because all of them were self-deprecating to the point that I don't think even J.K. and Neil Gaiman they know that they have impact, but they're really not sure how much they have. I think, and they're just people that you know that they'd be good to have a conversation with, and in a road trip you want that. So that's my answer to that. Second question: a book that you finished on a flight or commute that you enjoyed, or that you didn't enjoy. In my case, Alice in Wonderland. I actually read that during one 2.5 hour flight, something of the sorts, and it was just I just couldn't stop reading at all. It is a funky, weird read. Uh, the thing is that it did not let go, and I loved it. I think Alice is a bit of a prat, but the book is fascinating and just so vivid that there's just if you're a fan of fantasy, it odds are really high that you're gonna enjoy it. Uh, when you travel, how many books do you take during your average trip? For me, obviously length of stay depends, but I vary between 3 and 5 books, something of the sorts. Uh, I consistently finish three, and sometimes I need a little bit more. So why not have a bit more? Uh, Next question: a book that actually rescued you on a trip that you were having a really bad time or something, and that thanks to that book you had a positive experience. Sick Puppy by Carl Hyacin or Hyacin, not sure how you spell the name, but that book is just gut bustingly funny. If you have like a really a high tolerance for messed up sense of humor, that's a wonderful book. And actually, I was just and people were livid because it was in Newark, and it was a 4 hour delay. And I just read the book. I went. I had I think it was yeah, it was a beer. It was an IPA. Not sure which one, but it was good. And then I went back right to reading, and I was just laughing so hard, and people were just baffled that with such a bad delay, that why is he laughing? And I'm like, read a book. It's the best answer to many a problematic situation in your life. Uh, Next question: a book that will travel with you for the rest of your life. The Sandman graphic novel series is always going to be with me. Harry Potter is always going to be with me. The Little Prince, even though I read it this year for the first time, that's a book that I'm always going to keep because, and one more, two more, Dune and Duspach Zarathustra. These are all books that in some way or another have helped shape who I am, even stuff that I read recently, because they shook me and they had an impact and they're worth more than one read. And when you find something that's worth more than one read, you give it more than one read. So yeah, those are my choices. What work has allowed you to travel to other places like really feels like you traveled to somewhere else. And I have three choices. I already mentioned Dune in the previous answer, but Dune is just one of my favorite novels. The series is good, but that first novel, and actually the first novel and second one, Dune Messiah, oh god, those are really good books. Um, that's one. Lord of the Rings is just another world. It is so lush and detailed and wonderful. And the Foundation trilogy, although I've only read the first two books, and that's a good trilogy, and it's a really good and detailed work where you feel as if you're in another place, and I think that's fascinating and something that I always strive to do with what I write. Uh, Next question. What is your favorite mode of transportation? In my case, I'm gonna say pixie dust. I think anything that lets you fly with a combination of something and happy thoughts, um, really fly. I don't mean I don't mean like drugs or anything. I'm not for that, but I am for pixie dust, and I did read Peter Pan, and it was a great experience. And even though Peter's a bit annoying in certain aspects, he's still very charming, and just the ability to fly has been something that has fascinated me always. Um, what is what books have you read at light speed? Uh, I can Strange Luck and by me Irene Winters and Anatomy of a Darkened Heart. I both Anatomy I read in 3 days, and Strange Luck I read in 2 days. Uh, Both by indie authors, both fantastic, both recent reads. Uh, if you're talking about heavier books, the last three Harry Potter books I read in less than 2 days, which is a bit psycho, but just could not stop at all. I'm talking about 8 hour reading sessions. And oh, why do I have a headache? What do you think? But yeah, I can mention those. Other books I've actually read in a day, which are a lot shorter. But really, those Harry Potter books, I devoured them, and that's why I have such a high level of respect and appreciation for J.K. Because she did something that touched me to that level. And I know that I mentioned a lot of Harry Potter, but I'm always gonna mention it. It's something that shook me, and it was just wonderful the first time I read it. And then as I read more, I wanted to read more. And I think when I was finally able to enjoy that series, I know this is digressing, but digressing is cool. I think when I was able to enjoy that series was when the last movie was coming out. That I read everything. I read books 1 through 7, and I paced myself. I'm like, okay, if I want to read them comfortably, I have to start here so that I can build up. And even and it's one of the few series with so many books that I have reread, a couple of times. I will always reread it. It is just I smile so much when I'm reading it, and then I read it again and I find something new, or I'm reminded of a little detail of Dobby or Diagon Alley or the Sweets, or what Fred and George did, or so many things, so many details in 7 books, 7 really detailed and lush books. But uh, yeah, I read the last three. The last book I read in a day and a half. Basically, I got the book at midnight, and I read until 4 a.m. Went to sleep, woke up at around 8, started reading until I guess 2 p.m., where I had to stop for lunch, and then I started it again until I finished it. It was a cycle, but I loved it. Um, what's a trippy, weird book that you believe not many people have heard of? For me, On London is a fascinating book by China Miéville. I might be pronouncing his name wrong, but and I haven't read more of him, and I've been meaning to for so long, and I will get to that because On London is just so fun and such a fun book, and everyone is likable. And when you get to the point when you like inanimate objects that suddenly are animate, and that one thing is to think that the tea set and the cutlery and the candelabra in Beauty and the Beast are fun and sweet and engaging. I get that, but they're all elegant. No, they take China takes something really really mundane, and by the end you wanna hug that thing. I don't want to spoil it, because it's that good. To me, it was a super fun read, and I would recommend it to anyone who really enjoys YA books. And finally, what's the most beautiful scenic route that you think has been in a book or work of art or even an adaptation? I do that in clarification for my answer. It should be book, but the graphic novel for The Fountain is just beautiful, even as is the movie. And that journey to Xibalba, um, and the variations between the graphic novel and the movie, it's just beautiful. It's just and it's it's a movie and a story that will make you sad, but will make you think and appreciate the better things in life, regardless of what happens. So yeah, I think that's one of the most beautiful scenic routes. And honestly, Rivendell, I think, has to be amazing to visit. It's just, the detail that Tolkien used to describe it is beautiful. And I'm actually rereading The Lord of the Rings, so I might change that answer or include other things. But yeah, that's about it. And so, yeah, I'll be tagging. Let's go for it. I'm tagging Amy Irene Winters. I'm tagging Christy Stratos. I'm tagging Peter Clark, the writer. I'm tagging Maricel Jimenez. I'm tagging Larissa Woropay, and I'm tagging Walking Casino. There's other people I could tag, but I've already tagged a healthy amount, so I'll leave it at that. And for now, peace, love, and Mike Rhodes.